Your Daily 180, 180 seconds of pure Bible study.
We're looking at John chapter 1. Yesterday we began a discussion where two of the disciples of John the Baptist, they hear John the Immerser say, "Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world." And they follow Jesus, and Jesus asked them, "What are you looking for? What are you seeking? What do you want?" And they said, "Rabbi, where are you staying?" Now I'm honing in on that word rabbi for just a little bit, because we're going to see this repeat itself as we go through John. Especially we're going to see some great emphasis like in John chapter 13 and the significance of Jesus being a rabbi. Yesterday we looked at the fact that a lot of different people referred to him as rabbi. They didn't pay him the respect that he was due, but nevertheless they acknowledged him as a teacher. And it ticked certain people off because there were two types of teachers. There were teachers of the law, and then there were teachers having authority. An example of that would be Matthew chapter 22, verse number 35. You remember that a teacher of the law, the New King James says, a lawyer comes to Jesus and says, "What's the greatest commandment?" And Jesus goes on to tell him to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And the second is like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. But what I want to hit on, he was a teacher of the law, a Torah teacher. He could cite and quote, and they were brilliant, the first 5 books of the Old Testament. But then there's a different type of teacher. And notice at the end of the Sermon on the Mount that they're very perplexed with Jesus' teaching, because it says at the end of the Sermon on the Mount that he taught them as one having authority, not like the scribes. That's Matthew 7, verse number 29. Now, as we think about that, I want us to turn over to Matthew chapter 21, and I want you to chew on this for just a little bit. They're very upset about Jesus' teaching in the temple, and the religious elites come to him and say, "By what authority are you doing these things, and who gave you this authority?" That's Matthew 21, verse number 23. So Jesus says, "I'll ask you a question. You tell me. The baptism of John the Baptist, where's it from, heaven or men?" Now, that's very rabbinical, asking back and forth. And if they answered his question, they would have the answer to their question. And they're afraid to answer the question. But what I want you to get is Jesus is pinning them down and saying, you need to acknowledge where authority comes from. Authority does not reside in man. Authority resides in heaven. Now, man oftentimes takes it upon himself, but for everything we do, we need the authority of heaven. And when we look to Jesus, that's exactly what we're doing. Join us again tomorrow.